Welcome to the Rewarded Consumer Podcast. My name is Michael, and I have a general passion to get more rewards out of my everyday financial activities. I wanted to share this passion with you to help give information on tools that can help get more out of these mundane everyday activities. I am joined today by a group of my friends who also have a similar interest.
Hey, I'm Pete. I'm here to learn and possibly even share useful experiences from my financial decisions as well.
Hi, I'm Stas. I have an interest in technology and finance, so let's explore this world together.
Hi, my name is Jan. I have a technical background, but would like to explore the thoughts that my friends have around financial aspects such as credit cards and other reward programs.
Hey, I'm Alex, aka AG. I'm a novice to cashback consuming, but I'm here to share my experiences and thoughts and hopefully ask some good questions.
Guys, welcome to the show. Today we're talking about how to get rewarded or get rewarded value out of our cars. No one really thinks of that, like maybe on an everyday basis, because it's a very utilitarian device that we use every day. But I feel like during this COVID-19 crisis, that the car could be more of a escape, or it could have other values for you that could be used during this time of us being kind of locked up in a house, not really being able to go anywhere. The other thing is we can also look at it from like a perspective of how I how financially I obtained the car and how what's the best form. Maybe everybody has a difference of opinion there. So I'm going to start off with Stas here, our resident Tesla expert. He'll tell us a little bit about how he obtained his car and hopefully tell us a little bit how he feels rewarded from it.
So I have a Tesla Model 3, and I actually reserved it back before they became public. So in terms of, I actually went to the store and made a reservation like 2 years before they came out. But nowadays, you can actually just go online, their website, and order it on their website and either pick it up or have it delivered to your house, depending on your situation. So you don't even have to worry about dealerships or bargaining or negotiating or any of that dealership hassle.
Well, how did you obtain it?
At the time, there's no leasing option, so I basically had to just get a bank loan. Nowadays, I think you can either get a loan from Tesla or lease it, but I personally just got a regular car loan, and I'm just paying that off monthly.
The other question I have for you is, what rewarded value do you get out of your car?
I guess there's a few different aspects to it. One, there's the feel good of it's better for the environment, don't have all the gas emissions. Also, it's one of the safest cars, if not the safest cars in its class. So that's nice knowing, that I'm driving a really safe car in case of an accident. But there's also the actual rewards in terms of, one, it's fun, fast, all that. But also, so I actually get updates for both the software and the maps. I don't think any other company does this, where for free you just randomly get updates from Tesla, and some of it is just simple bug fixes, not a big deal, but other times you actually get new features that you weren't even planning on. Like, I think a year or two after I got the car, they added a dash cam feature to it. So now if I just plug in a USB drive into one of the ports, I have a free dash cam basically. I didn't have to buy a dash cam, and that was not something that was advertised when I bought the car. It was something they just decided, hey, we can do this, so let's just push it out to everyone. But in terms of COVID, since I have a house and a garage, I just charge in the garage. I don't have to worry about going to a gas station, touching those gas nozzles that other people are touching and have to worry about wiping them or anything. I just have basically my own personal gas station in the garage.
That's really cool. Does Tesla reward you at all for anything, like by getting people to buy their cars or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's actually a referral program. It changes every once in a while. Now the current referral program is both the person that buys it and the person that refers them. Basically, both of us would get 1,000 miles of free charging on the Tesla supercharger network. So you can go on a really long road trip for 1,000 miles, and it's all free to charge. If anyone wants to use my referral code, it's Stanislav 30673. That's spelled Stanislav 30673. If we can put that in the show notes, that makes it easier probably. But yeah, anyone that uses that gets 1,000 miles of free charging. And if you then go on to share it with someone else, say you buy a Tesla and then you like it and you show it to your friend, then both of you get 1,000 miles extra. So you basically get 1,000 miles for buying it and then another 1,000 for referring someone else.
Oh, and I know you well, Stas. There's probably one feature that you really love about that car. You got to tell me about it.
The autopilot, of course. On a long road trip, it is very nice. I've driven my car to Canada, to Florida, all over the place. And nowadays, it's so good that you basically get on the interstate, turn it on, and it'll basically handle 95 or more percent of the driving for you. Like maybe if there's a really weird issue, like someone cuts you off or something, you might have to take over. But otherwise, it handles it. It switches interstates. It slows down if someone gets into your lane, speeds up. It basically does most of the driving. It's great. Now, actually, they're updating it to where I actually got an upgrade this past week. And previously, I paid for the full self-driving, but my car was old enough that it didn't come with a newer computer. So they actually upgraded the computer in my car. And now my car can actually recognize stop signs and traffic lights.
All right. Well, I'm gonna let's talk to Pete next. Pete, tell us a little bit about your car. What do you have?
I'm still rolling with the Toyota Corolla.
I love the Corolla.
Yeah, it's just consistent. It's there for me when I need it. Doesn't always look great doing what it needs to do, but I've had it since 2009, actually. And it was an '06 when I bought it. So it's working fine. It's decent on gas mileage. And I try to get upside occasionally, too. Unfortunately, I don't have the ability to gas it in my garage like Stas does. But I don't have to get that much gas these days in the first place. So I get gas maybe once a month now or something. It's not that much.
So COVID makes your gas consumption totally different now?
Oh, very different. Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming everybody else's is pretty close to that too. But yeah, I mean, I would say that the reward I get from it is more of a purely utilitarian. No bells and whistles, but it works. So I just try to keep it that way. Give it the maintenance that it needs. Hopefully, a reward can be in the future of me getting another car that I'll appreciate even that much more because I've stuck with this car for so long.
And how did you lease the car? I mean, we probably didn't lease it, but did you finance the car or did you buy it outright?
I actually bought it outright. I bought it used and I just bought it outright.
Nice. Yeah. I definitely have a soft spot for the Corolla because I used to own a '07 Corolla, which I got back in 2009. And yes, I bought mine outright from, I think it was Enterprise. Yeah. Surprisingly, a lot of people don't realize that a good value to find a car, actually, you can go to Enterprise or any car rental place. Most people only keep their cars for maybe about 3 years, I think at the most, and then they sell them off at a pretty substantial discount. Now, there were a couple things, they had a lot high, they usually have higher mileage. That's one thing. And I did have I think I had a cigarette burn in one of the seats, but honestly, it was so small, I didn't notice at the time. One nice thing is I know exactly what happened to that car because it had to be maintained and checked and washed. And it's basically going to a dealer to take care of it because that's all they do is cars.
You're right. The trade-off is high mileage, but it's a reasonably new model, and aesthetically it should look fine. You just don't always know. Sometimes when you put that amount of mileage on in a short amount of time, it does wear out the parts. It's decent, It's a decent car, and it's it's been treated right. Is the point?
Yeah, and I think Toyota makes a great product.
Did you guys get another one?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I guess I'll talk into it. So yeah, we had to get a new car. We had one day where it was just, I live in Chicago and we have the weirdest weather. It was April, when we're not supposed to have snow. It's been like that, the last 2 to 3 years. We've had snow in the middle of April and we had black ice that had hit the ground. We were going no more than 30 miles an hour, hit the black ice. Kelly, my wife, was probably going 10 miles an hour and just trying to stop, but could not stop. And the one thing we ran into back of is a public transit bus, which, you know what? That was no match for our Corolla. And I think the bus was even unscathed. Timing couldn't have been worse, to be honest. We actually had to have a car because both of us were working at the same place at the time, and it was just a lot easier and more convenient. I think I was probably going to go with another used car because I had a pretty good experience with the used car, and I was thinking the Corolla because I've just had it. It was great. But the newer Corollas, there was something weird about them. We just didn't like them as much. The newer models had a weirder dash and everything like that. It comes down to you find different things that make you like that car, which is it can be rewarding in itself. We just didn't like the way that felt. So, as part of the insurance company, they gave us a Camry, and I had no thought of ever giving a Camry. I'm like, maybe eventually. I just thought it was always the biggest gas guzzler ever. Well, we fell in love with the Camry because of that rental car. So we actually ended up going over to Toyota, and we went and got a new 2018 Camry. And surprisingly, it was better gas mileage than my 2007 Corolla, which was a much smaller car, and it had, it was just a beautiful car. It had all the bells and whistles and the backup features. The other thing that was going on at the time, we were buying a house, so ideal time, not ideal at all. And I had a conundrum. I was trying to figure out, do I buy the car outright, which I probably could have done, but it would have been a little more uncomfortable, especially buying a house at the time. Or Toyota was offering a really good deal, 0.9% financing, which I thought, it's crazy. That's great. So I'm like, you know what? I get a brand new car. I don't have to worry about any used stuff and how much mileage has been on it and what's happened before. We just ended up financing it. The only thing I had to do is I had to make financial sense. I just never thought I never would take a loan out on a car. But I realized at the time there was at least a bunch of savings accounts that I could put some of my part of that payment or whatever I would have paid for that car and put it into a savings account and get like 2%. So that would balance it out and then some. Plus, one nice thing you can think about is it also helps your credit score. Having some kind of form of payments to make, car payment, a house payment, or anything like that, can be a good thing to help a person's credit score and go up. I think it definitely helped, and we love the car to death. It's a great car. I definitely get a lot of intrinsic value out of it, especially now during COVID. Everyone's trying to go to these delivery services and stuff like that. We try to limit our exposure out in the world right now, but we go to the store still. We don't spend that much time there. We just put our mask on, we get what we need, and then get out of there. And a lot of stuff we still do get delivered, but it's that escape I have.
And to add to that, I don't know who uses their vehicle as a form of possibly relaxation, but sometimes people are just relaxing their vehicle. I mean, I'm assuming Stas is a great example of that. He can just sit back and let his autopilot go. But I think that you use intrinsic value. I said for my car, it's purely utilitarian. I still get joy of driving, and there is a benefit to that, although that's definitely not monetary. I do feel some sort of intrinsic reward by just being out and about sometimes and not having to rush while I'm out doing things sometimes. I guess when you're talking about the rewarded consumer, it does not always have to be monetary as well. I mean, I would say there's more than just that reward.
Yeah, monetary or points driven. It's what's satisfying. Like one thing lately is the fact that I've getting my house ready for a baby, and we've been buying a lot of new stuff so we can make it like more of a home. I mean, we've had the place for 2 years and we still haven't finished everything, but I kind of like that. I kind of like having new projects to do. But there was like some intrinsic value about putting something yourself. Yes, I put some chairs together this weekend, and they were a bitch to do. Pardon my French. But once I completed them and they looked great, I'm like, you know what? There's some intrinsic value there. Just that satisfaction of getting something done and just like doing it yourself, going through the tried and tribulations and then getting a reward out of it because now you got this beautiful chair that you didn't have to pay someone to do. So rewards don't always have to be financial or, measurable by points or something like that. It could be, like I guess get like a relaxing feeling, as Pete was saying, when you drive. And the Camry does it. And my wife and I, we've been able to, go out. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm a little bit of an airplane geek. So I know I'm getting a little off topic, but this is my personality. I'm a little bit of an airplane geek. So sometimes we'll drive out to the airport and watch planes for fun. It still excites me. That's like the one real normalcy right now in my life that I would, one thing I'm looking forward to is once this is all over, I want to be able to get into a plane. That'll be the signal that things are getting better. I guess get this rewarded feeling or this exciting feeling when I'm in a plane. Like I know I'm going someplace exciting, and then just the plane itself because it's just a beautiful piece of engineering. So that's my reward thing. But enough about me. Let's get to Jan now. Jan, tell me a little bit about your car and like how you obtained it. Same as what we've been talking about.
Sure. So I've been leasing my vehicle since 2012, so for the last 8 years. The reason I'm leasing my vehicles is I like the idea behind getting a new vehicle every 3 years or whatever. I usually do the 3-year, 12,000 miles a year. Yeah, I'm limited on miles, but from a personal experience, I never go more than the limit is in a year. The dealerships, they don't look at it yearly. They just look at the final mileage whenever you return the vehicle. So in case you go over the limit, they will charge you, I think on average, it's between 15 to 20 cents per an extra mile. So that's one of the constraints. But again, if you don't go over that limit, it's nothing for you to worry about. Now, one of the other reasons that I like leasing vehicles is because most of the dealerships, they offer some sort of a maintenance plan. So obviously it costs money, but it basically incorporated into your payment. So if you wish to pursue that service, it will just be a part of your payment. So my dealership, for example, they offered me that option, so I'm paying a little bit extra every month for that, but at the same time, I know that I can go to any Honda dealership, for instance, and get a free service. So that's one of the nice features as well. Now, I know I mentioned Honda, so yeah, I'm currently driving a 2018 Honda Accord, and I had to, obviously, since it's a lease, I had to finance everything through Honda. So I just worked with the salesman when they came and they offered me prices. We could negotiate a little bit, and then we came up with the final price as expected. The reason I went with the Honda is just because obviously it's a Japanese car, so most of the Japanese cars are reliable. Previously, I used to have a Toyota. The reason I went to Honda this time is because they offered me a better price from a financial standpoint, so I just decided to go with them. The nice features about my current vehicle is that it has a lot of technology as well. Obviously, it's not on the same level as Stas's car, but still it has some cool features such as adaptive cruise control. So really, if you are driving for long distances, you don't really need to worry about braking and accelerating. You just set the speed that you want and the car does it automatically for you. Another feature is the lane assist. So if you turn it on, basically make sure that you stay within your lanes. It will not automatically switch lanes if you turn on the blinkers like a Tesla does, but it will stay within the lane. So it's more of a control kind of feature when you drive. Technically now during the COVID times, I personally live in a different state from where I'm currently located. So I live in Missouri and my parents live in Indiana. So I live by myself and I didn't want to stay during COVID by myself in Missouri because my company enforces us to work from home. So I basically drove from Missouri over to Indiana just so I can stay with my parents and family during those times. So those two features that I previously described, the lane control and the adaptive cruise control, definitely help in that long drive. It's about a 500-mile drive from Missouri to Indiana, so definitely something nice that you can just relax and drive, and the car will just do all the braking and accelerating and ensure that you stay within your lane limits.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point, by the way. I just wanted to reiterate that. Sometimes when it comes to leasing and the fact that you've got a maintenance plan, you kind of have a trade-off that you not only get, you're getting a new car every couple of years, but you don't have to have any surprises. You just have a consistent monthly bill. So that is a nice thing to have that convenience and peace of mind.
Yep, for sure, because the dealership expects you to take care of the car. So if you get that maintenance plan, it just makes it a lot easier, and you can literally take it to whatever dealership is in your area where you stay. So that's definitely a nice feature. Now, probably one of the downsides of leasing a vehicle is that you consistently keep paying every month for your lease. So, for example, if you purchase the vehicle, you just pay all your monthly payments, and then once you pretty much just covered all your payments, you're done paying. But from a lease standpoint, you just continuously pay. Obviously, you have the option to purchase the vehicle at the end of your lease if you want to. But again, like I mentioned, I just like the idea of having a new vehicle every few years. So I just continue leasing it. And it works well for me. So I had no issues with that for the last 8 years. So my lease will be coming up to an end at the end of next year. So I'll probably be looking at a newer vehicle. Honestly, it doesn't really matter from what brand you lease your vehicle. As long as it's a reliable vehicle, I'm sure the dealership will be willing to work with you on a good price as well.
Now, Yana, I've actually never leased a vehicle before. How does interest rates, how does that work into?
It's basically incorporated into the price rate. So they give you like, hey, you will be paying X amount of dollars every month, but you can try to negotiate with them the MSRP from the MSRP price. So if they drop it a little bit, then your monthly payments will be a little bit cheaper. But when you lease a vehicle, they don't really talk to you interest rate. It's all incorporated into the price at the end once you choose what services you want to acquire.
Jan, question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any intrinsic value you're getting now besides just the features, the peace of mind of getting a new vehicle every so often? Is there anything else that's intrinsic, especially during these times right now?
So I personally like driving to places, and I don't like to depend on anybody. So I like the freedom of, especially now during the COVID-19, just going places and getting the products that I need. So for example, groceries, I'll go and do that on my own and I'll just drive. I don't want anybody coming to my home, and I don't want anybody touching my groceries. I'll just go touch it myself, make sure that it's clean when I bring it. So I just like that type of freedom. I'm kind of hesitant of taking flights, like you mentioned earlier, Michael. So I like that freedom that I have a vehicle right next to me that I can drive to wherever I need to during those times and take care of business as I need. my employer requires us to work from home, but in previous podcasts I mentioned that I travel a lot for work, so they still expect us to travel, just not to hot areas. So for example, if they require me to go to a client site, I'm in Indiana, but let's say I have a client in Kentucky, I can just drive and then they will reimburse me for mileage. So it's another benefit here. The gas prices obviously dropped since COVID started, so it's a lot less that I'm spending on gas now. I don't drive as much, but I just talked about the benefits of driving earlier. So I still save a lot of more money than I used to spend earlier.
All right. Well, we got one more person left to talk about their car. Alex, take it away.
I'm glad that I went after Jan because he explained leasing, and I would have had to go through that whole spiel to explain how leasing works, because that's how I have my car. I drive a 2017 Kia Soul EV and have that on a lease. The only thing that I'll add to making the choice between buying outright and loans and lease, because I've had all of those or used all of those at some point. With the lease, because of that changing cars every few years, there's also this added flexibility so that if, what you end up paying regularly for the lease is the same or less than what you'd be spending via the loan route, there's also just that it does come to an end at some point if you're not in a long-term buying decision. So, in my case, my car is the second car. We only got it because I needed a consistent commuter type of vehicle. And now that lease is just getting ready to expire and we're at a point where commuting to work doesn't matter anymore, we're able to just kind of instantly go to the one car setup, and I can just, let that car go because I don't need it at this point. Where if I had acquired it, by getting a loan or by buying it outright, then, if I'd bought it outright, then I could sell it, which would be great. But if I had gotten a loan on it, then, I'd essentially just still have it until I do something with it. And then it goes into figuring out how much is left on the loan versus how much the car is worth and all of this other stuff. So it turns out to have just worked out well for me to be doing the lease. And the other thing that I figured when I was making a decision was the car that I'm going to get is going to be some type of short range electric vehicle, and these things are sort of changing on a yearly or 2-year basis, kind of like computers and components and stuff like that. So I didn't want to feel like I was locking into a 2017 EV, feeling like, in 2020, 21, the cars would be a lot different in terms of what features they have, what features are proven, what preferences I might have about owning an electric vehicle. So all of that went into choosing to lease it, and I guess that was a good decision. And the car itself, all I really looked at was what was going to be the most cost-effective electric vehicle option outside of any safety considerations. So I looked at everything that was available in terms of fully electric vehicles that were being offered in any type of lease basis, eliminated maybe one that had particularly horrible safety issues, I think. I forget what that one was. And then just went with the one that was that I could negotiate the cheapest deal for in terms of picking it. Now, it turns out that the Kia Soul EV does have some really nice features, like the audio. I think that the audio system is really good. And for my short commuting purposes, where I'm probably just listening to a podcast or listening to some music, that is something that I get value from. Outside of that, since I was getting it to just be this tool to go back and forth to work, and I knew that I was always going to locate myself somewhere reasonably close to work because I get insane about having a long commute. I just knew that, something with short range would be enough. Now, it would never work as a primary vehicle because there's no way I'm going on a long trip with that thing ever. The maximum mileage on a charge is 90 miles. So it could never work for, extensive purposes without requiring it to be charged a lot. But even when I was using it at its maximum, charging it at work all of the time. So it's basically not costing me anything to fuel the vehicle. So I'm not really paying anything outside that lease. And of course, electric vehicles are very good in terms of maintenance, and they're much fewer requirements than regular cars, if you will. So it's also saved me a lot of money, not going to the gas station, not going to mechanic for any reason, just not having any problem with the car at all. So that convenience, I think, is the greatest value versus 10 years ago when I owned a BMW 3 Series. It was just all about kind of it being flashy and extremely fun to drive and all of that stuff. So
Intrinsic value, though, you still got that. That was important to you at that time.
Yep, the things that are important to us obviously change. So now that I'm like a old boring person who doesn't do things, I just basically need it to take me where I need to go, for it to hook up to my Bluetooth so it plays the right thing, and it works.
So, speaking of mechanics, I didn't think about this in terms of value, but I don't know if other car companies do this, or maybe it's luxury brands, because this is the first car that I had that was more luxury, I guess. So my car is still under warranty. I think it comes with like a 4-year warranty, something like that. And just this past week, there was just a pop-up on the screen saying there's something with the restraint system, called a service center. Called them. I mean, they just basically scheduled a time for me to come in. It was all free, paid for. But get this, while they had my car and they're fixing it, they let me borrow a Model S, like the upper class vehicle, for free while they had mine in the shop. I've had this before too for minor issues, but I've never had any other car in my life where I go to the dealership and they give me a better car than the one I gave them to use while they're fixing mine.
Oh, that's how it was for me back when I had the BMW. I guess I don't know how it will work now because I haven't had to take the Kia in. And I bought that one used. I bought that one used outright. I forget how I had that great service plan, but yeah, they would always put me in something nice when I had to take it in, which was great. They're probably trying to sell me like a nicer version of BMW, but it was fun for that purpose.
Another benefit that I can think of from a leasing standpoint is that some states, if you have older vehicles, they require you to do like some sort of like an emission test.
Emissions,
every few years. So if you lease a vehicle, obviously you lease a new vehicle. So like I live in Missouri and they require to test on vehicles that are older than 3 years, but that's something that I don't have to worry about. So obviously it's not an expense for me.
That's good. Yeah. You do it, at least here in Georgia, you do it yearly. And I have been doing it since I got here.
I would say Illinois has the same thing. I forget what the time frame is.
I think it's 3 or 4 years old.
Kelly and I both have done it, and you just you have to get out of your car for a second. They put like a little plug in there and see if everything's running okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The whole thing is interesting. I'm glad they're doing that. I mean, one interesting fun fact: one of my family members lives in the LA area, and they said once COVID hit, they actually could see. He had a friend that lived up in the Hollywood Hills, and you could see all the way to like Long Beach, and in normal circumstances where all that smog and stuff is, it's crazy. Like little things like that. I mean, not that I want to be going through this in order to be able to see Long Beach, But yeah, I think that's a good point. I think one thing we're going to try to focus on this podcast is not just about points or monetary value. Let's just find value out of things. Like I think we might do an episode on cooking appliances and stuff like that. Maybe even have a battle. Who we think is the best cooking appliance. Stash and the Sous Vide. I know he'll be that. And I'll bring out something, one of my big guns out here too. We'll have a cook off. Well, guys, I think great show. I like to thank everybody for joining us at the podcast tonight. And I think our next podcast we'll continue back on the banking sector and kind of give you a follow-up on my findings on some of the new banking products I've tried out. We appreciate you guys joining us, and hopefully we can give you some more rewarding content in the weeks to come. Thanks for joining us.